Hey there, welcome to the Focus Podcast with Taralee. This is the place where we talk about real life, real relationships, and how to grow through it all. If you're looking for simple mindset shifts, better communication, and deeper connections, you're in the right spot. Let's dive in. Okay, so welcome to the Focus Podcast with Taralee. On the podcast today, we have a special guest, and we're going to be diving deep into the world of dating and relationships, not just from the perspective of finding love, but also the kind of self-worth and clarity and emotional security that leads to truly aligned partnerships. My guest is Sara-Ann Rosen, and she is a dating expert and relationship coach who helps people break old patterns, stop settling, and create a space for the love that they truly want. Her aligned love system is a 4-part process that's designed to help clients uncover and rewire their limiting beliefs and regulate their emotional compass and rebuild a dating strategy that aligns with their deepest values. So whether you're single or you're dating or in a relationship already, this conversation today is going to give you powerful tools for self-discovery and connection. Welcome, Sara-Ann. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Tarly. I appreciate your very kind and detailed introduction. That was just wonderful.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're here. And um, I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I kind of have like I've looked over your website. You've got a wonderful website. Tell people where they can find that.
Oh, yes, it's called Settling Up, and just like my first name, it has a hyphen, so settling-up.com.
Okay, yeah, we're going to talk more about that, and I'm going to link that kind of stuff in the show notes so that people can find you. But how did you find your way into dating and relationship coaching? Tell us your story.
Well, honestly, I didn't set out to become a dating coach. I was on track to become a couples therapist, but I have a background in law and I can be a bit of an empiricist. So I'm often asking, hmm, would this stand up in court? Let me do a deeper dive. And I go down all kinds of rabbit holes. And what
Yeah.
got me curious was the outcome studies in counseling. And I wanted to see if there were longer term outcomes, specifically for couples therapy. And
Hmm.
what my research found was that more than half of couples experience diminishing returns 4 years out of therapy. Oh, and this
Yeah.
is my
Oh,
new
if you're not,
foster kitty.
if yeah, I was gonna say if you're just listening to this and not watching on YouTube, you didn't just see her cute little kitty climb up. So, aw, cute.
Oh, yeah. So
The kitty
with,
wants to be a part of it today, I think, right?
yeah, she's very social. And she would meow if I closed the door fully. So it's kind of like, this might be the
That makes
better
it.
option.
Yeah, yeah, that's all right. We
Oh,
always
thanks.
welcome all kinds of guests here. Sorry,
Thank
you
you.
continue. Go
Appreciate
ahead.
it. So I was a bit concerned. I thought, if over half of the couples after 4 years, although it's much higher within, months or maybe a year out of therapy, the fact that the majority of people experience diminishing returns on the work they put in, I thought,
Mhm.
what can we do about that?
Yeah.
And then I found that one of the biggest predictors of these sustained returns was earlier intervention. But according to John Gottman, who's kind of, the
Yes,
father
love
of
him.
relationship science,
Yes, love
his
him.
work, me too, his work showed that couples typically wait about 6 years before trying therapy to tackle reoccurring conflicts. So I thought, hmm, I think
Interesting.
there's a puzzle piece that we we can work on. We can find a better fit.
Yeah.
And so um, I spent, let's see, I did my master's in counseling and I did the clinical internships and training, and that's when I upped and moved halfway across the country. And
Oh,
so that's when I shifted to coaching. So I had some experience, not a lot. And I thought,
uh-huh.
this is actually a good break to to pivot. But
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, that was kind of a tangent because what I was beginning to experience and what I was reading more and more about is that with, say, the typical couple who starts therapy, you start off with trying to untangle deep-seated resentments and to
Hmm.
reconcile diverging agendas. And that was really the operative word in that phrase, diverging agendas. It's like they're there for different reasons. And so that is going to hinder progress a lot of the time. And a lot of the time, people coming to therapy, they can't articulate what's going on in their inner worlds. So it
Hmm.
takes a while to decode that that deeper layer of, I guess, disconnection.
Yes. Yeah.
And it could feel like performing, I kind of think of it as reconstructive surgery without
Hmm.
enough anesthesia, because it's already a stress system and you're putting more stress on it.
Yeah.
And not to say that there isn't a lot of success, it it was just I was just feeling distressed. It's like I
Hmm.
want to offer better returns on
Yeah.
investment. And so
Yeah.
that's when I thought, how can I find a way to support people earlier in the relationship cycle? And that's where
Okay.
coaching came in.
That's where coaching came in, and your aligned love system, right?
Yes. Oh,
You
yes. And
wanted
the
to.
blind love system is
Okay.
rooted in partially experiential kind of which tries to connect, I guess, the mind and body experiencing in the
Hmm.
process through very simple, digestible exercises and reflections throughout the program. And it's neuroscience informed. And that's where I came up with my 4 R's. So we start with the reveal step to make the invisible visible by decoding each client's relationship patterns. And so a pattern is really just what our brains use to
Hmm.
automate our daily habits, our daily assumptions, and what's been modeled for us. So my patterns are probably very different than yours. And
Yeah.
so it took me a long time to really articulate my own relationship pattern, which I realized I'm the third generation to repeat it. My mother and her mother before her were attracted to very bright men who had significant rifts with their parents. So, who struck out
Okay.
on their own, had high conflict with the immediate family, were very distant from them. And so
Okay.
we're creative, fascinating, intelligent,
Hmm.
and then under the surface, which you don't get to until later in your relationship, there's a little bit of unprocessed trauma and
Hmm.
ambivalence about closer connections and familial bonds.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I study this kind of stuff all the time, and I love everything. Our brains are so fascinating, and the things that we learn and can unlearn too, we can rewire those, which I know is part of your whole process. So the first R you said is
Right. Oh,
uh,
yes. The reveal to make these
reveal.
patterns visible. And so
Okay.
we go through, we kind of data dump at first.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you believe about love? What does it mean to you? What, how's it felt to you? And a lot of time people are like, oh, oh yeah, love is like, it's like they come up with things like love means sacrifice, or love means it's a never-ending roller coaster or mystery, or it's like sewing a quilt. They come up with these stories and then we investigate. How did those stories get written?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. It's just recognizing that too. So like you said that because then what's the second R then? That leads us to the second R, right?
And that leads up to rewire. So we shift the stories that are keeping them stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So for my personal example, I always looked for aligned values. However, I was missing the deeper emotional piece for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so that speaks to what we believe about love and
Mm-hmm.
maybe what happens when love is a mystery.
Yeah.
What's the role we play in that? And has it gotten us what we want and what we needed?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And another part of that is more implicit, which is playing a simple game a number of times a week, which is helping our nervous system kind of tone down its negativity bias, where it's looking for potential threats around us. And it does that by simply spotting the smiling face. So if there are, say, 15 faces on the screen, one of them smiling in the sea of those faces, and the faster you can click on it,
Mm-hmm.
the more your brain learns to spot it and to focus on the positive around you.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was, I
I love
think,
that.
developed at McGill University a number of years ago, and it's called the Smiling Faces game. So it's publicly available. I just include the link in the program for people to use.
I think that's so great. So people that are listening and you're curious about some of this stuff, go, we'll have the link in the show notes that you can go and check that out because I think that's really fascinating. Okay. So the third R, right, leads us to that.
Yes, and the third R is regulate. So once
Hmm.
you've helped your nervous system or kind of your subconscious process acclimate to a new normal, then we can start to work with it a little more consciously. And that's where we do little exercises to practice intuition. Like a simple
Hmm.
exercise would be note any sensations that come up when I share something that may be true or may be false. So a simple thing is the Atlantic Ocean is near California.
Okay.
And I know I felt a little mild surge of warmth kind of around my sternum. I was like, wait a minute.
You're like, that's not true. Wait. Yeah. So kind of resisting a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
So those,
not a fuzzy, glowy, expansive warmth. It was just
hmm.
like a little buzz, like, mm-mm.
Yeah. Okay. So
And
help
so
to
just,
recognize those, and you say regulate and recognize their emotions in their body.
yep. And we do a few other really simple exercises, kind of like that. And
Okay.
just to help, because I know in our culture, we're often taught to just push through things, just think through it,
Mhm.
intellectualize it, use logic. And of course, our our nervous system and our emotions are a part of our logic because
Hmm.
they try to signal what it thinks is safe or threatening or a priority on some
Yeah.
level. And then our thoughts take over from there.
Hmm. Yeah. That I know listeners that listen to me normally know that that's a lot of my focus framework that we talk about how our thoughts create our emotions that lead to our behaviors that create our results and all that kind of stuff, you know. So I love all this that you're talking about here because I can really it's a lot of the things that I teach, but I like how you are specific. So we have um, the first one is, let's see, second one's rewire. What was the first one again? Help me, remind me.
Reveal.
Reveal, rewire, regulate, and what's
And
number four?
number four is rebuild. So that is when
Rebuild.
we put on
Okay.
our construction hats and we we go through an exploration of values and needs. And for values, it's not just aspirational, it's how do we reflect those in our daily life routines and habits?
Hmm.
And what brings us closer to those values? What brings us farther from those values?
Okay. I love that. That's awesome.
And that helps. the person, because a lot of people, they have a more or less an idea of where they want to get to, but they don't often know how they're going to get there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially with dating, and especially with how the dating landscape has changed dramatically in the last 15 years or so.
Yeah. It
It's
it
a,
really has. I Next month I'm going to be speaking to in a workshop to I don't know, they told me there'd be three groups of 80 kids of young single adults, and I'll be speaking to them about becoming and becoming someone rather than finding someone at this point, because a lot of what you're talking about with your 4 R's is really focusing on building themselves before they can really get to that
Mhm.
with somebody else, correct? Like that's kind of what I'm getting from a lot of what you're
Mhm.
teaching here, and I love that. That's so interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly it. Because we often, and I think the culture and movies and songs have taught us to, kind of write out your wish list to Santa Claus almost.
Yeah.
And we
And
overlook,
don't settle for less, right? Like, no,
yeah,
no, that's not really what it's all about, right?
right, less what? Is it more salary for less empathy?
Yeah.
Often we make trade-offs like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is trying to kind of correct for that, correct those assumptions.
Yeah.
And so with values, it also helps us see it in ourselves and see how we can expand on
Mm-hmm.
on that and to recognize when others are walking that talk too more easily and not just
Okay.
performing it.
All right. Yeah, that kind of leads me to another question that I had. Like how can listeners that are listening to us here today, how can they identify and shift some of those dating patterns that are no longer serving them? Because this some of these may be what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah. As a lot of us know what we want to have for a great date,
Mm-hmm.
but not so much what we need to have a long-term fulfilling relationship.
Yeah.
So that's a lot more complicated. So we tend to focus on the, well, it feels good for now, and so I hope it all works out. I hope this
Yeah.
changes. I hope we figure this out.
Mm-hmm. I think
And
sometimes a lot of times and I think maybe I've been married a long time. I've been married almost 27 years. So I've
that's
been out of the
wonderful.
dating world for a long time, but I have three children who are young adults. I have a 25-year-old, I have a 21-year-old, and a 19-year-old. And so watching them, kind of navigate all of this and stuff. And I think my biggest thing that I want to teach them is kind of like what we talked about. Like they need to be the kind of person that they're wanting. They can't just expect somebody to be, who they're wanting them to be. And oh, for heaven's sakes, don't go into a relationship thinking you're going to change that person because that's not going to serve either of you ever. So, I think that another question that I had for you is like, what do you think that self-worth, the role of let's try this again. What role does self-worth play in attracting aligned love?
A lot. It plays a huge role. And this is also part of what inspired my aligned love system is I think it was the researcher Samantha Joel out of Stanford University, but I can double check that, found that one of the biggest predictors of happy relationships is how happy the subjects were in life before the relationship started. So it's
Yeah.
really finding someone to share and expand joy instead of be the source of it.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Oh, that like got me chills because that's seriously like everything that I want my kids to know and the listeners, I think even I'm talking about young adults just because that's who I work a lot with too, but even, anybody who's maybe had relationships that have struggled or, haven't been successful in the past and stuff is that that self-worth and that happiness, like you said, before, not having allow, or what's the word I'm looking for? Not expecting somebody else to make you happy, because that's just not going to happen. Like, you can't, somebody, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody else. You don't want to be in charge of somebody else's happiness, because that's a lot of pressure. And so you can't be expecting that from somebody else too.
Yeah, I think what we don't realize, even though most of us, including me at some points, have lived this, what we overlook, or just maybe we misattribute what's going on to some extent with our sources of discontent, is
Hmm.
that yes, it's certainly true at the very beginning of a new romantic relationship, we're high on all of these happy brain chemicals.
Yes.
And
Yep.
and so maybe it clouds our judgment a little. We
Hmm.
again misattribute what's going on. And after that brief honeymoon period, if we were stressed before the relationship doesn't negate those stressors. It kind of blocks them out, or, silences them for a short amount of time. But then as the relationship grows, gets closer, more complicated, it adds stressors. And if we have already had trouble managing stressors before,
Yeah.
then we're going to start feeling increasingly negative about the relationship because of those additional stressors that are now
Yeah.
we're feeling less and less in control of.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. So, how do you think that we can use? I know you talk a bit about this, just from what I've seen, like on your website and things that you've shared with me. How can we use body-based intuition to make better dating choices?
Yes, using body-based intuition is slowing things down. And of course, I like the to approach things as both and. I know our society has traditionally been a little more either or. It's either emotion or it's reason. And I think especially with advances in neuroscience, we're moving away from that it's kind of like a feedback loop. And we
Yeah.
can have a negative feedback loop or a positive feedback loop. But
Mm-hmm.
but to get back to your question, it's one part of self-worth is accepting our human experience, and that's we won't always feel comfortable and at ease and joyful every minute.
Mm-hmm.
And and then the more intellectual piece and cognitive piece is if we can label the emotions, and particularly from a second or third person perspective, instead of me saying, I am the sadness, if we say something like, Sara-Ann is feeling sad, or well, I guess that's third person, but I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, that maybe not second person. Yeah, I think it's third person,
No.
sorry.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Instead of, I'm sad, or I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, or, like you
Mhm.
said, just I'm feeling these things. And I think a lot of times we try to resist some of those feelings too. But like you talk about,
Mhm.
letting it kind of
Yeah.
be there and feel it, and
And it's
help.
one layer of information from our
Yeah.
systems, as
Hmm.
our nervous system, the majority of it is processing, millions of pieces of sensory data, visual, auditory, tactile, etc. And
Yes.
and our conscious mind is working with, just dozens of pieces at a time.
Yeah. Didn't I heard something one time, and maybe it was our subconscious mind, but our brain, we have over 60,000 thoughts a day. I don't remember where I read that or heard that or something, but over 60,000 thoughts a day. And
Mhm.
that's a lot. That's a lot to process.
Yeah, it sure is. And that's why we have habits and we are on autopilot for a lot of
Hmm.
our activities. Because if we had to stop and consciously go through, okay, now I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put this here, and then it would take too
Yeah.
much time.
Yeah, definitely.
But that body kind of, allowing just the first layer of kind of not very precise information to come through to us. It's like,
Uh-huh.
okay, the sensation and then the emotion I'm detecting, it's sad or it's anxious. And
Mm-hmm.
what's anxious, it's like I'm worried or fearful about something I can't put my finger on that I think might happen.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Do you find that naming those kinds of emotions help, right? That's what I've kind of learned is you name
Mhm.
it to tame it. I've heard that,
Yeah,
before.
that's the
Name it.
mantra.
Yep, name it to tame it because, when we recognize those and can see those things, it has less power, I feel like sometimes over us. And or we give it full power, when we resist and we sometimes that, I've heard said before like if you're standing in the ocean, you don't try to sit and hold the waves back, right? That's like impossible. And sometimes we feel like that when, you know, if somebody's having a panic attack or, feeling anxious or whatever, they want to hold back the ocean. And sometimes it'll be much easier just to let it flow over you. Otherwise, it's going to knock you. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been in the ocean where a wave has just completely thrown me, slammed me on the floor and I was only up to my waist or something in the water. So I think that a lot. Like if I'm feeling an emotion come on and I've had to learn this, you know, as I got older, because it was something that I think I resisted a lot of that stuff when I was younger. And it's fascinating to me because the more I just let it come, the less I you know, it controls me. Because I was always worried. I didn't want anybody, any emotion to control me. I wanted to be in charge of my own, all of those things. And so, but I think I was trying to hold back the ocean sometimes, and it just doesn't work that way at all.
hmm And I guess, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear from that is also is having a negative emotion in response to an underlying emotion, which
Hmm.
then
Yep,
is a sort of
exactly.
a negative feedback loop.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, talk a little bit more about that. Tell us a little more about that, the negative feedback loop.
Sure. Let's see. So,
I think
so
we
I
all
think,
do that.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. It's really almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Hmm.
So if instead of approaching a sensation or an emotional signal with, what's that? What's that about? And like, and that
Curiosity.
in, yeah, and that I think fits in really well with the first step in your focus framework of
Facts
you,
first.
yeah,
Yep.
you name the facts of the
Hmm.
situation. And so I think an emotion is one way into that.
Yeah,
And saying,
definitely.
okay, this is the sensation, this is my state, not my trait, just my momentary state, because I think we also overestimate emotions are really fleeting. They're up and down, in and out all the time, and we
Hmm.
kind of get a little stuck with this is how if I feel this now, I'm always going to feel this, and
Yes.
not true. And in
Nope.
fact, doing something small like looking at a flowering plant or playing with like my kitten or turning on a specific song can shift our focus
Yeah. Yep.
and that like is like with your framework that is the gateway to a different set of facts than we might have
Mhm.
had 2 minutes ago focusing on just that emotional state.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. There's a book I'm reading now. Oh goodness, it's called like Get Out of Your Mind or some oh gosh now I'll put it across because I can't think of what it's called right now, but it talks about like when you talk about a flowering plant or you're playing with your kitty, to you that brings happy emotions and things, but to somebody else like watching the sunset can bring sadness to them because they remember something as beautiful as a sunset or as cute as a little kitty. If somebody was I don't know, scratched by a kitty younger and was like, and is afraid of kitties, that could bring a whole different set of emotions for them. So we have to like recognize some of those things too. And
Absolutely.
where it's all up here, it's a little kitten, it's a beautiful sunset, but these emotions can bring different things for different people. And
Such a
so,
great point. Such a great point. It's not a one size fits all by any means. And in fact,
hmm
that reminds me of something else I think that we often overlook, which is memories themselves are composed of sensory data and emotion. And then the last step is the stories, like the verbal
hmm
stories we attach to them. But when they come
yes,
up, it's like a smell, we get an image first, and then we get
yes,
the story around it. And so you're absolutely right. It could be a song. I know for me, songs usually make me tear up. I feel mixed emotions, but it's not really primarily, I'm so joyful and uplifted and light now. But for
yeah,
someone else, that's absolutely how it is. Like they have their hype songs, and I have mine.
yes,
Like I'm feeling really connected, but I'm tearing up because it's a moving song.
yeah, yeah. It's That's so true. Something that, movies or, like you said, memories or things that, we can attach. And I can't remember what the name of, you probably know better than I do, of that condition. I don't know if it's a condition, but where people see letters and they're colors to them. What is that called? I
Synesthesia?
can't. Yes, yes. That I find that fascinating because I think that's like, so interesting to me that they see, I'm a very visual person too. Like I have pictures that come up but not like how some people talk about like I see a whole scene and no, it's not really that, but I do have like a running dialogue in my head a lot all the time. And I find it fascinating that my husband does not. He can sit there in complete silence and not have a thought that goes through his head. And I'm thinking, how does he not? We've talked about this kind of stuff because our brains are so interesting that he doesn't have a running narrative and dialogue going in his head of things that are constantly, I just am always thinking, oh, it just may be something random, like the lights on over there, or just something. But he does not have those thoughts. So when he says he's not thinking about anything, he literally is not thinking about anything. So when you're asking your boyfriend, what are you thinking about? He literally might not be thinking about something, and that could be, foreign to us, right?
Yeah, it's so individual. The person
hmm
I'm currently dating has a t-shirt that says, give me a minute and let me overthink this. So I have a feeling
They might be
he,
thinking that same thing.
he might
Yeah.
have a few thoughts in there.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I love that. So what do you think are some red flags to look out for early on in dating? If somebody were just starting dating somebody, are there some red flags that you might caution them on?
Yeah. See, well, I've been focusing on people who are using dating apps, so I guess I'll go a little more specific, well, a little more general, and then I'll get specific to that because
Okay.
it's pretty popular nowadays. But in
hmm
general, again, I'm going to borrow a term from John Gottman, which is accepting influence. And really, what that means is that the person takes your thoughts, feelings, and needs into consideration when they do something, don't do something, and how they say something. So, for example, on a dating app, and I work with people who identify as women, and so the majority that I've worked with so far are interested in dating men. And
hmm
what a lot have found is on dating apps, for example, when they're just starting to communicate and attempt a conversation, when men want to move the conversation to in person, a lot of them don't phrase it as a question. They're not thinking about gauging the women's comfort level because the reality is it's riskier for women to meet people
hmm
on dating apps or especially through social media, but dating apps too, than it is for
Yeah.
men. And they have not only more bad experiences, but the bad experiences they do have are likely to be more dangerous than what men report.
Yes.
And for men to overlook something like gauging their comfort level, like what would you think? Would you like to? When they say we should meet, let's do this. It's like,
Mhm.
it's a little demanding. And
Yeah.
another red flag is when people focus on what they don't like, what they don't want, instead of because there's so many ways we could say the same thing and give off an
Hmm.
entirely different vibe. And if someone I know that we do feel bonded to people when we vent. So that is true, but that's usually with people we know well.
Yes. Not
So
somebody you just met on a dating app. Yeah. Or on social media.
yeah. So when someone starts off with complaints and,
Mm.
well, this is what I'm not looking for, so I hope that, you're not like that, like, mm-mm. That's a big
Yeah.
red flag.
Yeah. There's some unhealed pain or something in that person that they're
Yeah,
going to be bringing that baggage along with them. I mean, we all have baggage that we bring, right? But
of
you
course.
don't need a whole set of luggage right off the bat on day one. So there's,
No,
it's,
that sets the stage, and that kind of tells you what the weather's going to be like from the
yeah.
start. As if,
Yeah.
or if
That,
people get too comfortable and too intimate when you're still texting. So I know
mhm.
the second day I tried Bumble a couple of years ago, I started talking to someone who had a very interesting life and was very articulate and was good at banter, but a few messages in got subtly a little sexual,
Mm.
indirectly, but it's like he didn't know he was talking to someone who, got a graduate degree in counseling. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, I got your number and now I know. And like I don't literally have your number, but it's like
Yeah.
like
Interesting.
like
Yeah.
that's not a good sign either.
Mm-mm. I know a few years ago, my daughter, who's 25 now, it was on, some dating apps. She's at this point, she's like, I'm not right now. But I remember her as soon as they like say want her Snapchat, she's like, I'm out. Like,
Yep.
nope, we're done. Like, that's not even because she knows what that means. And I'm sure anybody who's been on dating apps a lot of times knows what that means. And so if a guy wants your Snapchat, nope, we're out. Sorry. No thanks. Especially like right at the beginning.
Oh yeah. Yeah, without gauging. Also, it can be, I guess, if you approach it more kind of like you're data-ing at the very
Mm.
beginning instead of dating, because you don't know these people,
Yeah.
that you can focus more on that level of communication. So if they don't really ask you getting to know you questions, so they might ask you something very light and superficial just to start the conversation. If they don't ask follow-up questions, and if they don't get more specific about you, or if they just give you very vague compliments, like you're cool, you're amazing, you're cute, but they don't actually compliment, like, you know, your dedication to whatever hobby is really admirable because,
Yeah.
then it's a good moment to pause. And it's like, do we have the same relationship goals here?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Do you find that, like, depending on the age of the person or men versus women or anything like that, do you find that, like, there's more red flags to watch for I mean, you probably, like you said, you work more with female interested in male, correct? And
Mhm.
so men and women, I know there's probably red flags that you recognize in men and stuff. Are there red flags that maybe women are putting off and that they're not really realizing that they're doing that?
Oh yeah, yeah. And there is some overlap, although with the power disparities in our culture, I I tend to be more concerned when men show red flags early, but it's absolutely both sides. So for women, it can really be And it doesn't really pose a threat. It just makes relating and connecting more difficult, which is to appear cool and um, I think overly agreeable, laid back, and
Uh,
and
yeah, not have a mind of your own, pretty much, right? Is that
to
what you're?
yeah, to be afraid of either stating a boundary or a preference or a viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in many cases, it's because a lot of women were socialized. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, or it's rude to even be assertive.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's not a personality defect. But it can make getting to know someone harder.
Yeah.
And it also speaks to, oh, this is another one this is universal. We all have to work on ourselves and with each other on keeping this in check, which is implicit expectations, the ones
Mhm.
that we don't express directly or out loud, but we use to kind of keep score. It's like, well, they
Yeah.
should know, and they're not, meeting this expectation. It's like, but
Yeah.
maybe they didn't know that that was
That you had
something
that.
that was important.
Yeah. I learned so I did coach training at the life coach school. She what's her name? Brooke Castillo talks about um the manuals. So you create these manuals for people and
Mhm.
you have it in your head that they should be doing this and this and this and this. This is this manual. Well, a lot of times you didn't hand them that manual, nor should they have to follow that manual. But we're upset about something because of the manual that we've created for them or the expectations and the things that, well, you're supposed to be doing this or you should be, So we need to get rid of those things because we can't control other people. We can't, nor should we want to. Why would you want that, on you to control everybody else around you? But so if we can get rid of those and not have those expectations or those rules for people that we have in our head, but they don't always know or understand, I think it would be a lot easier for all of us in the world. I think I find myself with that, even just with, my children. If I have these expectations of them, then and they're not meeting those expectations, who's disappointed? Me. I'm creating this horrible situation for myself when they don't need to be living up to this manual or expectations, nor should I expect that. Of course we can have, general things that we want from people and those kinds of things, but to expect and to obviously, like I said, my husband and I have been married 27 years. There's things that I know that he likes and that I like, and that I'm sure I don't think he loves cleaning the bathrooms, but he knows that I hate it, so he does those all the time. Things like that it's not an expectation, it's not a manual that I've given him like this is your job or whatever, but because we respect one another, he does that and he likes to do that for me because he knows that I like that. So anyway, I got off on a tangent there, but
But
I
that's a
know,
wonderful example of accepting influence.
yes, yes, exactly. Well, I know I've taken a lot of your time here, but I love how your work like blends science-backed personality insights and deep with like the human body and the body-based intuition and things to help people stop settling and to start attracting the love that truly fits. And I know you have a quiz, like a dating personality quiz, is that right, on your website? Which I think is fascinating. And I think our listeners will really like that. So we'll make sure we link that. Um, but is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with? Is there something you want to make sure that you tell them? And is there someone out there that's like needs to hear this next thing that you're going to say? I know it. No pressure.
Well, I think in our current culture of, I think, performance and perfectionism, I think what really builds lasting connection. So, and there's also science and research to back this up. It's that Yes, the first 10 seconds, we are more appearance focused. It does create our first impression. But after that, when you spend, even in a speed dating context, within a minute, those gains kind of evaporate, and the energy you put forward and the rapport you're able to build through a combination of your words, your body language, and just simple things like eye contact, smiling, and open. Like you're not closed, you're not tight, you're
Yeah.
not hunched, you're not looking down. You're warm, you're open, you're friendly. That is what hooks people.
Yes. Confidence. That exudes confidence.
Approachability, yeah,
Yeah.
and it is awkward, but awkward feels a lot more threatening than it actually is. It actually makes us relatable. People want to know that we're actually not perfect. So if we
Yeah.
stumble over a word, or if we forget a word, or if we like, I don't know, bump into the table a little, or if our handshake, we reach out to shake someone's hand and we haven't quite finished drying off our hand because we just washed it for some reason. If we just say, "Oops, I didn't get to dry it completely," if we acknowledge it, it's like, then
Yeah.
that's a point of they're a real person. I've done that too.
Yeah. Yep. Relatable.
Mm.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah. I love it.
But
Well,
they don't really connect, or what's the word? I guess I'll say, like, they're not hooked by the the brand of our clothing or
yeah.
the
Yep.
cut
The
of our
hair, the
hair.
makeup. Yeah.
You know, that
No.
might be what gives a second look for the first 10 seconds, but afterwards it's really our energy and our confidence, and that comes also from our self-worth.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you. And so we'll link where people can find you and learn more about your 4 Rs, which I think are fascinating. So I think it's great that you are out there helping people and um, coaching people and getting them to the place where they need to be so that they can find who they want to find, right? To find if they want to find somebody to help not make them happy, but help complete and be just a part of their happy life already, right? There we
Yeah,
go. Well,
yeah.
great. Well, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And well, like I said, we'll link all your information in the show notes. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Taralee. This was such a pleasure. I love talking to you, and I just really appreciate your time. It was wonderful being here.
Well, thank you. Thanks for hanging out with me today on the Focus Podcast. If something stood out or helped you in some way, feel free to share it or leave a quick review. It means a lot. Keep showing up, keep growing, and I'll catch you in the next episode.